nobody would pay a penny for what I have, except people do seem to want my audio cassettes of my interviews for People magazine. I've gotten a bunch of people writing to me saying, if you ever want to get rid of that Tupac interview, send it to me.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, the podcast where we celebrate aging with vibrance and we defy the stereotypes of what it means to age. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, a psychotherapist of more than 30 years, here to introduce you to my off-the-mainstream guests who will energize and inspire you. My hope is to create optimism about getting older and help you cultivate zest and joy in this season of your life. And I love to hear feedback from you, my listeners. Please drop me a line at zestfulaging@gmail.com. I read every single comment. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Well, our guest today we are going to have so much fun. Michael Small is the host of the podcast I Couldn't Throw It Out, where he tells the tales behind treasures he's saved for a lifetime, including never heard interviews from his 15 years as a reporter for People magazine. His goal is to throw everything he shares so he can avoid leaving a mess when his time on Earth is done. But after nearly 2 years, he's an attic clearing failure. He can't bring himself to toss a thing, so he's claiming a new title, America's Worst Swedish Death Cleaner. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
I love this idea. I actually have a web course called Too Much Stuff. And a lot of people our age are really thinking about, like, we just all have so much stuff. What are we going to do with it? Tell me how you came up with this idea for the podcast that you're going to go in the attic and try to clear out some stuff. How did that come to you?
Well, I started saving things when I was about 6 years old for some
boy.
reason. And I didn't just save any old thing. Like, it's not like I have egg cartons or something like that. I thought things had historic value. My own possessions had historic value for some reason. And also, I just loved them so much, I couldn't let go of them. So I have, for instance, from those days, I have these pins that we got when we went to see the Beatles movie, A Hard Day's Night.
Oh, yeah.
And they say, I'm for Beatles. And I also wrote a little book about the Beatles at that time. Where I could barely write, but I did it with crayons. And these things seemed important to me. So that's when I started saving. And then I kept saving I loved school. I was one of those people. Like, I really loved school. Every day I looked forward to going to school, which is, I know I was in a minority, but so it was important to me. So I saved basically every single paper that I wrote.
Oh my gosh.
Through my entire life, through college I did. And then I really loved college. Like, I think my sister once said that my fingernails were like stuck into the brick of the building and they had to drag me away.
Graduation was a very sad day for you.
I had no desire to go out in the world. And then I got these really fun jobs, especially I had a job in book publishing for a year, but then I was working at People magazine and I really was convinced that everything related to me was historic. So I saved everything, including, this is something people don't usually save. I saved all my expense accounts. Like, I still have them, and it would be like, having lunch at the Russian Tea Room with Boy George's friend Marilyn, and it would say what we spent, or, and every single story I reported, I kept a record of what I bought, and
wow,
so
you're an archivist.
Yeah, kind of. So it's a lot of papers. and, I had them in boxes. First they were in bags, I think, but then they were in cardboard boxes that fell apart. Our great, friends Peggy and Alan let us keep it all in their attic for years, for decades. Um, and so, ultimately, now that I retired almost 2 years ago, and it just seemed like, "What's gonna happen to this stuff?" It's not like I save, like I have a rule with, for instance, with other things, I have a rule with clothing that, um, I can't, if I don't wear it for a year, I have to wear it or give it away.
Mhm.
So I'm strict with stuff like that, and then I put on these crazy outfits every year so that I don't have to throw away my clothes or give them
And it's
away.
your own rule, but you're trying to find the loophole.
Yes. But, so it's not stuff like that though. I don't have that many of that type of possessions, but I have these 24 boxes that are full of papers, and last of all, when my parents died, they they did not, or when they were going to, they were actually going to assisted living, and we had to move them and then clear out their home. They had not prepared one bit, that
Mm.
everything was there. And so I tried, and we tried, to throw away or give away, and to people who needed it, a lot of stuff. And my brother took care of getting a dumpster, and and we filled an entire dumpster.
Wow. And
But
so you've experienced what that looks like.
oh, it was not pretty. I mean, my parents were wonderful people I loved very much, and they did not mean any harm. They just could not, I guess, could not even think that an end was coming. So, my sister Debbie and I spent, I think, 7 days from, like, 8 AM till 2 AM just going
Mm.
through stuff.
Mhm. And as you were going through this stuff, what were some of your thoughts?
It was a lot of There was a lot going on. First of all, my father's papers, once again, now somebody would have just thrown them all in the trash. But I could see myself, I was sitting halfway in a closet with this boxes all around me, and I was throwing some papers to the right and some to the left. And basically, I tried to keep samples of his life without keeping everything.
Mm.
So I still have to go through that stuff, but I saw his career, the letters he wrote. He was, in the leather business, and his father had been in the leather business, so there was a lot of documentation about how the leather business worked. It's a business that's died in this country, so I I thought there was some historic value in it.
Mhm.
Um, and I was exhausted, and I was a little bit wondering whether I was supposed to see some of the things that I saw, and I was a little bit annoyed with them that they had not thought about this.
Mhm. And that's where the Swedish death cleaning comes in.
Yes, and of course, we'd never heard of Swedish death cleaning, and now there are services that will help you if you're in this situation. We didn't know about any of that, and my parents also felt, I think I inherited many things from them, but a
Mm.
few of the things are, my father saved his checkbook stubs from college
Oh
'cause
my god.
he thought that had some value, and
Mhm.
my parents moved many times, and he carried those checkbook stubs with him from place to place.
Mm. Mhm.
But also they felt that the things they owned were extremely valuable, and they proudly left things to us. Particularly, they had a beautiful looking grand piano, which they left to my sister, thinking that this was a great, going to be a great, valuable gift to her. Um, and we had to pay someone $500 to take it away.
Mhm. Mm. Hi, Zestful Agers. Did you know that we have enormous control over how we age? What we do every day sets us up for the kind of longevity and health span we'll be enjoying for our future. If you'd like the blueprint on how to live better, longer, I have created a course that cuts right through all of the contradictory and sometimes harmful advice and is built on science and the more than 350 interviews I've done with experts in the field of aging. You can find my Zestful Aging course at zestfulaging.com under the Courses tab. Get ready to feel more energetic, vibrant, and joyful. Now, back to the show. It's interesting because you're really talking about like our perceptions of what's valuable.
Yes.
Like there's the reality and then there's the perceptions. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who's a professional organizer, and she said, we have these things and we think they're so valuable. And a reality check is to just go on eBay and so see what people are paying for it, and you might be surprised.
Oh, yeah. Well, nobody would pay a penny for what I have. Except people do seem to want my audio cassettes of my interviews for People magazine. I've gotten a bunch of people writing to me saying, if you ever want to get rid of that Tupac interview, send it to me. They want to hear his voice, right on the tape.
I see. And you've decided that you'd like to keep those for now.
Well, I hope that I think of places I can donate them. Like I think there's a hip hop museum where I can give a bunch of my tapes. I did a book about hip hop way back before people were thinking much about it, and came out at the beginning of '92. And I interviewed everybody, Ice-T, Chuck D, Queen Latifah, Tupac, Eazy-E, and NWA. Everybody talked with me because it was sort of new and nobody was expecting to be interviewed. And so I have all those tapes, and I think they probably should all go to one place.
Mm-hmm. You've had quite a career.
Well, I had some fun.
I'm just thinking about, I always ask for forgiveness with my guests because I am a psychotherapist and we sort of, look for patterns, right? So the thing that strikes me as interesting is you have these receipts and then you have an interview with Tupac.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just like on such, what a spectrum of things that people might find valuable.
Well, I'm really interested in history. And when I read history, I am most interested in the history of how people lived. I'm working on a musical, which is inspired by the creation of the internet, which I was part of. Like one of the very first websites I got recruited to work for in 1995. It was,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, and so that left a big impression on me. When they brought me in, I so didn't understand what it was that it would take like 15 minutes for a page to load, and I didn't understand there were already ads on the pages, and so I clicked on an ad and waited 15 minutes for the ad to load, and I didn't know that wasn't the entire internet. I thought the internet was a big ad.
So was it dial-up at this time or something
Oh yeah,
before
yeah.
dial-up? Okay.
It was dial-up. But the reason I bring that up is that inspired me to get very interested in, was this the first time there was such an innovation like this? So I'm writing a musical about what it was like when electricity came in. And it was actually, strangely, it was available. For instance, Edison started his power plant in Lower Manhattan. And if you were within 1 mile of that power plant, you could have electricity. But it was a long time before, if you had a home more than 1 mile from an electric plant, that you could have electricity. I think it was years later. So I ended up writing a play about that. And a musical actually. And when I was researching it, what fascinated me was how did people live in these homes? How did they do things before electricity?
Mhm.
So it's my long way of saying that I feel like these things from these records of the mundane things we do, I just
Mhm.
really think they have value, and that if we throw it all out, the record of this will be gone. And that may sound a little crazy, but I don't know. That's where I'm coming from.
Mhm. Is that a particular kind of archaeology? It seems like there must be a name for this. I'm sure there is.
I think you were right. It's sort of being like an archivist.
An
Um,
archivist, yeah.
but
Seeing
this
that.
will all, if I don't do something about it, what I realized is someone will come into our home when I'm
Mhm.
gone and
Mm.
take those boxes because it's all nice and neat in labeled boxes, 24 boxes of stuff.
Mhm.
And it'll just go in a dumpster, like with my parents. They won't even, it'll be easier for them. They won't even have to open it. They can just go
Oh, wow.
pour it in.
So there's this is it your appreciation, this profound appreciation for history, your experiences, which have been incredibly, how shall we say, profound, but also varied, right? And all of this stuff. And now, though, you are retired. So now we put on the whole frame of you're knowing, I think, that there's probably more behind than in front. So then how do you negotiate everything that feels really important, and how do you prioritize it?
Yes. I started the podcast for that reason. It forces me to prioritize to some extent. And I've learned that some people really care about some of the stuff I've saved. We just did an episode about the singer Melanie.
Mm. I'm
Do you
very
remember her?
familiar with her, yeah.
She for those who don't remember, she had the song with the chorus, I've got a brand new pair of roller skates, you got a brand new key.
Mhm.
Um, but to me, I was obsessed with her in high school, and she had that song was almost like not a betrayal, but it was like frustrating to me that she suddenly was known for this song that was not typical of what she did. And
She was
so
really a soulful woman, right? I remember a song "Lay Down" and very much into deeper and, am I remembering correctly? Much more thoughtful than the roller skate song.
yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, she had many sides, and she was a very multi-layered person, and her music had many different sides. Some of it was funny, some of it was quite deep, as you said. And she was the youngest performer at Woodstock.
Mm.
And that song, Lay Down Candles in the Rain, was
Mhm.
about this transcendent moment she had when she was performing. It started to rain, and everybody lit candles as if to
Oh,
defy the the skies from raining on them. We're gonna stop the rain with our warmth and our light.
wow.
Yeah, that's what that song is about.
Mhm.
And she actually sang with the Edwin Hawkins Singers, which was this huge chorus. And what was so moving to me when I was in high school was that her voice could carry above all of them. uh,
Mhm.
she could sing above all of them. It was this defiance, and that was a time when the Vietnam War was done, but we were defying the older generation, defying the norms of society. Hard to believe now, considering the way things went. And
Mhm.
she represented that defiance for me. And it turns out I was not alone because we put out this episode. I'm always doing these things at like 1 in the morning. I woke up the next morning and there was a note from someone who manages a fan group for Melanie on Facebook. And they had already found it, and hundreds of people are listening to the little interview I had that I had done with Melanie. And then they are also listening to a friend of mine who knew Melanie really well and remembers Melanie. And all of that came out of me going up to the attic and
Mhm.
finding things that I had saved that reminded me of Melanie, photos of Melanie that I had taped to my wall when I was in high school.
She was a beautiful woman.
She was, and the friend who was on the podcast was the photographer who took many of those famous
Mm,
photos.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and so she remembered the incident. There's a famous photo of Melanie kissing a cow, and and
mm.
my friend Maddie Miller took that photo. And so this thing that had been up there, and it turns out like those photos that I had saved that I taped to my wall, I saw other people showing they had saved the same photos which came inside one of her albums. Um,
Mhm.
and so I don't know, that felt like I'm glad I didn't throw that out before sharing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this all these things that are, connect us, that were important parts of history, and knowing that some of this will be lost when we die.
Yeah.
How do we navigate, our own histories and people we've interacted with? You have interacted with very famous people, but like those moments in time, and then you kind of wonder what happens to them when I'm not here to protect them anymore.
And that's a really good point because one of the things that I feel is that I met many people who are famous around the world, but I also have been incredibly lucky to meet people who have these qualities of they don't seek fame, but they are really exceptional people. And my parents gave me a variety of gifts, and one was moving to this town north of Boston called Topsfield, Massachusetts. And I've had friends there from fifth grade, including the co-host of my podcast, Sally Libby, and I met in fifth grade in Topsfield, Massachusetts.
Oh my goodness. Well,
And that was long ago.
can we talk about some of these people? You talked to me about one dear friend who has been the most loyal individual and who has helped you and your wife through some incredibly difficult health crises.
Yeah, it's been amazing what we have enjoyed from our friends. And and these people are all represented in my boxes upstairs. I have
Mm,
things from all of them. And I feel those things are as important as what I have from Joni Mitchell. And one of the things that we have from them is my wife and I had a very interesting situation that affected our lives greatly.
mm,
And I'll say that what I found in the attic was cards and letters from friends after this event, and I had to decide whether to throw them out. So we did an episode that started with these cards and letters, but we really had to go back to my entire relationship with my wife. When I met her, she had been diagnosed with lupus. This was in 1975 when we met. We were 18 years old.
oh, wow. You met in
And
college?
yes, in
Mhm,
fact, I saw her the first day of college, and
mhm.
she was particularly she was on huge doses of prednisone because that's what they did then. So she her face was very, very round, and she had this crazy curly hair and was wearing these weird clothes. She was from South Africa, and
Mhm.
she spoke in English I could barely understand. And I thought, I'm in the wrong place because people people like this, this is all too strange for me. But I guess that feeling wasn't correct because I ended up marrying her.
Well, and she appreciated your eagerness, I'm sure.
So she was, when I met her, she was sick. She was in bed. I sat down on the end of her bed, and she woke up and we started talking. And then she thought maybe she already knew me. And well, basically, we were really good friends uh, immediately. And we didn't get married for 22 years.
Mm,
During the time that we were not married, she had two kidney transplants.
mhm.
And we went through the The challenges, it was very early for kidney transplants at Tufts Medical in Boston, and
Mhm.
and then another one at UCSF in San Francisco. And it was very challenging. And then when she would start to lose her kidney, it was very, very upsetting. And she would get sick in ways you can barely imagine. We added up on the podcast that we think that she had 9 very close brushes with death.
Mhm. And this
Um,
is all related to the lupus, correct?
yes, and something
Mm,
called antiphospholipid syndrome, which is, again, it's you get clots in your kidney, and
mm,
that is all caused by your immune system not functioning correctly, which is what lupus is. I'm not great at describing it, but it's an
mhm.
immune disorder.
Okay.
So we were very desperate after she lost her second kidney. She was getting sicker and sicker. At that point, we had moved to New York City, and we decided that the only option was for me to try to help, but I was the wrong blood type in every way. There was no way the blood type was correct. So I
Mhm.
went in and we were going to do a computer round robin thing where I would give a kidney to somebody and then they would give to somebody and give to somebody and give to somebody. And they would be pairs of people. And then the computers would end up giving everybody a kidney. So I went in to be tested for that. And then Cindy was so sick, we went away. And one of our amazing friends gave us his beautiful home in Sonoma,
Mhm.
north of San Francisco at the top of a hill. But there was no cell phone service. So we went there. Oof, it's still dramatic. We
Mhm.
went there and Cindy was so sick for a week. We brought all our groceries. We didn't even go down the hill. We just stayed there.
Mhm.
And it was just this beautiful spot looking out over the whole area with a swimming pool, and
Oh,
we sat,
wow.
ate our meals outdoors, but she was not doing well. And at the end we drove down the hill and there were all these calls coming in on her phone frantically from the kidney transplant center saying, call us, why don't you call us, why don't you call us? And then she started crying because she felt like if you don't answer right away for a kidney transplant, you're going to lose it.
Oh
And
my
then
gosh.
and so I pulled over at the bottom of the hill and she called and she got through and the guy said, and she was like, oh my God, what did I
Mhm.
miss it? Can I get on a plane? And he said,
Mhm.
whew, he said, you don't have to get on a plane. We have a living donor for you. She was like, what? How did that happen? And they
Mm.
said, he's sitting right next to you. His blood card was wrong for 35 years.
Oh, Michael.
And, um, not only that, but they test you for antibodies. She always had very bad antibody matches because of all her operations and all the blood transfusions she had, and there was no antibody reaction between the two of us. It was
Oh my
completely
gosh.
compatible. So I
I
started
can't
my
imagine that moment,
yeah.
that moment of realization. You pulled over and you've had this incredible roller coaster of you missed it. You missed your window. And then no, in
Yeah.
fact, the best possible outcome is right here.
And this kidney transplant has not been like the others. We just went to the kidney doctor a few days ago, and her kidney function is excellent
Mm,
still,
mm.
and it's 10 years later, and that's he was just like, we don't have to talk about your kidneys.
I can't
Uh,
imagine what a bonding experience that is. Talk about intimacy.
yeah, we're we're kind of close, and the thing that happened is when COVID came, we panicked. So, and this is where the part with friends comes in. We have been until now in pretty much quarantine for 4 years,
Mm.
and when everybody came out of quarantine, we see people, but when they come, we give them a COVID test. We all wear masks. We stay 6 feet
Oh,
apart.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
and when we eat, we have to set up a separate table so we're far from them. We're yelling across the room as we're eating because we have to
Mm.
take our masks off. But The good news on that front, by the way, is that the doctor said we can ease up on that, that there's better treatment for immune suppressed people now, and that he's not seeing fatalities anymore. So that's hugely good news. But to get us through all of this, the friendships have been unbelievable, starting with that friend who gave us this amazing place to stay for a week when I, was so generous about that. And then when COVID hit, we were having dinner with a friend that we used to see once a year, maybe, or every other year. And we both knew him from college, and we had met his wife only a few times. I said to him, I'm worried about this COVID thing and how this will affect Cindy. And he said, well, I do business all around the world. He's an architect who designs skyscrapers. And he said, I was in Wuhan and this is serious. And
Mm.
my wife and I have a renovated barn on our property in Connecticut. And today's Thursday, and you are moving in on Saturday.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we moved in and we stayed in their barn for 8 months.
Mm.
And they were so careful and cautious about our health. We didn't know then, whether it was even safe to be outdoors together. We would wake up in the morning and there would be a basket with a bottle of wine and cookies and crackers and cheeses and breads and
My
outside our door. And they went out and they bought a freezer for us to keep our food. There was no kitchen in the barn, so they bought hot plates, and they
Oh
they
my gosh.
rearranged the barn for us so that we had a kitchen and a living area. And this, by the way, was not what you would know normally. It was originally a barn structure, but it
Mhm.
was the most beautiful place a person could ever want to live, with the soaring ceiling, more like living in a sanctuary.
It sounds more like, yeah, if he's an architect
Yeah.
traveling to China,
Yeah.
it's gonna probably be it sounds like a Martha Stewart production or something, you know,
Yeah.
in
Uh,
Connecticut, but you know what it makes me think about is this question of what's really important in life? What's really important? And, you're talking about your love for your wife, the kidney transplants, the loyalty of your friends. Then I think about, Boy George or, whomever. I'm sure they're lovely people. But it sounds to me like this is the question that we're all really grappling with is what is truly important? And that gets to be more in our faces, right, as the years tick by.
Absolutely. And it's the friends. I mean, Sally, who's my co-host on the podcast, just makes me laugh so hard. And she has, since we didn't like each other in fifth grade, but since ninth grade, she's made me laugh.
Ah.
and and doing the podcast, that's really the best thing I should say about the podcast, is getting together with Sally,
Mm.
working on it together. She loves puns. I love puns. Uh,
So you're doing that together back and forth.
and we try not to put too much of that in the podcast because my wife hates puns. Um, but
Does she listen to all of your episodes?
every episode gets played to her before it goes live, and
Oh.
she finds what's wrong all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's
She's
our
got a
source of that.
good critical ear.
And that is another thing about the podcast. Since we have been so isolated, it has been a connection for me, not between with my friends. A variety of my friends have come on the podcast. My friend Meg Streeter Locke, who was a producer and director of Olympic skating, came on and talked about the things that she saved. So we had this wonderful time with her, and with my friend Tom, who is now a writer for Curb Your Enthusiasm, but wrote for Seinfeld and The Simpsons. And he came on and did an episode. And so these connections have been stabilized by being able to invite friends to participate in the podcast with us.
And it's not that they're famous or they've been with famous people, it sounds like there's that loving connection that you really appreciate one another.
Yes,
That's
and
what makes it tick. It's not like, "Oh, you wrote for The Simpsons, that's great." It's more like you guys sounds like it's a deep friendship.
oh, absolutely, and my friend Walker, who came on just because we disagree about every movie, music, everything. So it enhances our friendship that we disagree so often. So he came on and talked with us. Going back to the kidney episode, you would not believe what people did for us. I mean, one friend spent, I think, 2 weeks with us, traveled twice from the Midwest, but other friends, like a friend came and filled our house with flowers and spent the night.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
Another friend who has a really high-powered financial job, my friend Tim, um, he had a lot going on at the time, and he came because Cindy was still in the hospital, and he spent a couple nights and brought me dinner after work. He came over, and other friends came and cooked. Clean. My friend Jackie from fifth grade cleaned our bathroom. Came from
Mm.
Massachusetts, stayed
Oh
with us.
my gosh.
I can't mention everybody. My sister, my sisters, my family, my brother, everybody chipped in, and we weren't in good shape for months. So that you just imagine we had people from Cindy's oldest friend, Cindy's newer friends, our shared friends came and stayed with us, cooked for us, bought us things, brought us things, and got
Mm.
us through it.
So, Michael, are you familiar with some of the longevity research that talks about what are the most important elements of how we age? And I'm going to quote one of the researchers, and he said, "It's love, full stop."
Well, you're going to see me pretty late.
You're gonna be around for a while. I mean, that's the magic. I mean, that's the secret sauce. It's not kale smoothies. Mm.
Well, Cindy and I are both very lucky to have a lot of that. And I just want to mention like two other people. Another one is a friend from high school that we call the very famous Nancy, who is just a person that everyone loves. Everyone likes her. She's very understated, but she's very likable. And when all my stuff had to come out of our friend's attic, she also stored my stuff for years. And the reason why this is so significant is she hates clutter. She hates clutter.
But she
She,
did it for you.
yeah, yeah.
She got
And
she kept your receipts.
that was love. And
That
then,
was love.
and then one other, want to mention our friend Gay Daly. She gave a kidney to her husband before we did this. And I knew her and her husband from People magazine, her husband, Jay Lovinger. And when I woke up from the operation, there was Gay Daly with my sister at the foot of my bed. She was there for us.
Mm, mhm. Wow. Wow. Such a beautiful story. I mean, so many gifts that came out
Yeah.
of this tragedy.
Yeah.
Mm, boy, this is really something. So, as you think about this and as you continue to think about your podcast, w- what's next for you? It seems like you have this really brilliant idea about going through things in your attic and thinking about them and not wanting to throw them out. Like, is there a is what's the next? Is there a next phase? Or I know you're working on a musical and doing gardening and all this stuff.
Um, I am learning as I go, and I'm learning from all the people that I come in contact with. And to be honest, I've learned from you too how things can be done to make everything more smooth. And I sometimes put too much work into the podcast when I should be more efficient, I guess. And so I want to get to the point where I can make the podcast as fun as possible for me and for anybody who listens. And I think I have a way to go with that. So that's my goal, is to improve.
Mhm. Oh, isn't it true? There's always always room, right? There are always different angles and, yeah, that's I love this message of, having rubbed shoulders with all these really famous people, and some of the parts that stand out is, like, getting these food baskets and your loved ones and these loving friends holding onto your clutter for you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what's really important, and it's something I think we're all really trying to grapple with as we age. What is gonna survive, right? What's our legacy?
Yeah. I have a box now that says, because I was supposed to start either throwing things out or giving them away, which I think I've thrown out. I've shredded like a few greeting cards that I received. Um, but I have a box called processed, and the things that I can't throw away go in that box. So at least they have a life through the podcast. But guess what? Podcasts are not permanent. If I
Mm.
go, people are going to stop paying for the hosting of the podcast, and all of that will be
Oh,
gone too.
right.
So it's not like I've found immortality for my stuff.
Mm,
But at least more people are hearing about it and enjoying the things before. Otherwise, they would just, they would just be thrown out. And it's also, I think, one of the other challenges is, as the stuff gets more personal, like, obviously my Easy E, he was the leader of the rap group NWA.
mhm,
That one, and my Tupac, the rapper, thousands of people have listened to those on YouTube.
mhm.
Um, but they're not going to be so interested maybe when the next episode is about, my stuffed animal.
Boy boy, you wanna talk about polar opposite topics. There's Tupac, and then there's your stuffed animal. Oh my
But
gosh.
and Sally and I did a lot of soul searching. We were like, maybe we should just do a hip hop podcast, or maybe we should just do
Mm,
a celebrity podcast. And then it was like, that's not what it's about. It's about what's in that attic, and just taking the journey of the variety of what's there, and really trying to show that, like, the stuffed animal and the Tupac tape are of equal importance, which I think
mhm,
is what you were getting at earlier.
mhm, mhm. Yep, yep, that's it. Oh, wow. Boy, lots of thought, the stuff to really think about, thought-provoking, what is dear to us and why, and has that changed, and these are all really great questions. Michael, where can people find out more about you and your phenomenal podcast?
Thank you for using the word phenomenal. I greatly appreciate it. There's so many words that could be used. The main place to learn the most about the podcast is on our website, throwitoutpodcast.com.
Mhm.
That's
Okay.
throwitoutpodcast.com. And but also the podcast, I Couldn't Throw It Out, is on every podcast service. Wherever you get podcasts, you'll hear
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
Um, but on the website, I try to enhance it with photos of the things we talk about, and then
Mm.
I've been putting up blog posts, like, of, if when we did Joni Mitchell, I did the songs you may never have heard that you might like, and stuff like that. So
And you're
I'm re-
writing, I saw on LinkedIn, you're writing other pieces about other things,
yeah,
like AI and that.
yeah, a little bit, but most of what I'm writing is somehow related to the podcast, except for the fact that I'm working on this musical called The History of Light. And if anyone is interested in that, you can go on YouTube and search for Michael Small, The History of Light, and you can hear how we put hip hop music and Gilbert and Sullivan music together in one musical.
That is wow. That is something. That sounds like a really, creative, mind-blowing process. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for spending time with me today, Michael. It was such a delight to talk to you.
Oh, I really enjoyed speaking with you, and I've been loving your podcast because of the way you help people feel good about what they're doing, and that is super important, so thank you for that.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.